Hey everybody, welcome back. It's episode 26 of the Common Woman Podcast.
Yay! The clap is back to week, but that's okay.
It was so nice having our little studio audience last
It was
week,
fun.
man.
It was
I
fun.
hope everybody really enjoyed that last show because we really liked it. We had a fun time with everybody. It was good. You know, I wanted to tell people, don't forget we have a YouTube channel so you could watch us. And it's a whole different experience than listening because, like, you get to see all the crazy expressions, facial expressions that Melissa makes.
I am the worst. I realized that when I watched it back. I was like, God, my face.
It's totally different just seeing the interactions between everybody. So check out our YouTube page, like and subscribe and all that stuff. But anyway, I am Cortnie. I'm your host. I'm joined by the lovely bestie of mine,
Melissa.
and also my amazing, handsome husband, babe, in the building. It feels so lonely now. I feel like the last couple of episodes we've always had someone here, like you know. But it's just the original crew today.
I feel very zen right now,
which is good.
With my Long Island, I'm good.
Oh God, Babe made us Long Island iced teas, and they are so good, but so strong.
They are. It's good.
And it's crazy because we're talking about mental health today.
Well, I needed this then.
Yeah.
Take the little edge off this conversation.
Oh, the edge will come off.
Yeah.
I'm scared of what's gonna happen once I get to the end of this bad boy right here.
Yeah.
It does taste like iced tea
Yes.
with a twist.
Strong one.
A real strong twist.
Good job.
Before we delve into this topic, I wanted to give a shout out to Karina and Eric, who's going to be celebrating their 4-year wedding anniversary. Y'all don't know who they are, but some of y'all know who they are because you're friends with us, but that's our friend and our coworker. So happy anniversary next week to you guys. 4 years. That's wonderful. Keep it going. Prayers for many more. And also, I wanted to shout out all of our coworkers. Your face.
I never know who she's shouting out. I'm always like, yeah, okay, cool.
Like, whatever, yeah. I wanted to shout out our coworkers who listen because they're always like they were like our first listeners, really.
They were.
Shout out to you. Shout out to who? Corinne, Westlyn, Megan, Jessica. I don't know who else.
Jen.
I don't know who else is. Jen. Oh my God. Sorry, Jen.
Oops.
And whoever else listens.
Anybody else on the other side of the office who's listening, thank you so much for the support. We appreciate you.
Hey.
So, Mel, it is National Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yep.
I didn't even I was preparing myself for the topic.
Shout out to
I wish we can play
Hispanics.
Spanish music real quick. We
I
cannot,
know.
but that would have been cool.
Like that Feliz Cumpleaños that we played for Babe's birthday. That was lit.
That was lit though.
Yeah, that was pretty good though.
So you guys don't have anything to add to that?
No.
No mi gente, nothing.
That's a trademark, mi gente.
Is it?
Yeah, no, it's not.
Oh.
I totally believed him. I was like,
I was like, my bad. Do I have to edit that out?
I got nothing.
So yeah, happy to those Hispanics
There it is.
who are listening. So in addition to that, I mentioned last week it's Suicide Prevention Month. So, you know, this falls in line. This is actually the reason why Melissa wanted to talk about mental health today, because it's Suicide Prevention Month, and you know, suicide is a big problem in today. I mean, I feel like it's always been a problem, but it just seems like it's more prevalent. I don't know. I feel like we hear about it a lot with especially young kids committed suicide and
so social media is so big now. It's like everything is on Front Street.
So it's a sad topic, but
I've been avoiding mental health topics like the plague since we started this. I knew I knew eventually we'd have to get here.
Yeah,
because I didn't want to really talk about it, but it's like, all right, let's.
But
if this is the month for it, we might as well get it in.
Your experience will definitely help someone who's going through or went through something, you know. So unfortunately, a lot of us have experience with mental health issues, either personally or with someone that we love or care about, someone in our family. You know, I'm part of the main reason why I want to be a therapist is because of things that I've seen with my mom when she was here, and she suffered from mental health issues. So that kind of motivated me to want to become a therapist and help people. So let's kick it off with the polls. It's hard to be like super like.
I love your energy because I'm so like.
Let me tell you. I'll get into it later. Hold on. Let me do the polls one thing at a time. I'm a little excited. All right. So, has your mental health ever interfered with your daily functioning? 73% said yes. 27% said no.
Interesting.
So, unfortunately, a
you
lot of us.
27 lie.
I know, right? But you know what? I think one of our favorite listeners, Michelle Alyssa, she said that it's never, interfered with her daily functioning. I think that's wonderful. And I pray that that never happens to you, that you never have any issues with your mental health. So, that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. The second one, I asked, what is most important to you? Your physical health, your mental health, or your spiritual health, or all of the above? So mostly everybody said spiritual. Said all of the above. And it's funny because when I answered this too, I said all of the above, but at first I was going to say mental health. Because I feel like if your mental health is not on, in good shape, it's going to affect you physically. It may even affect your spirituality. But then again, if you can say that for all of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially like your physical health. If you're not physically healthy, that weighs on your mind,
All of it is like a domino effect.
Yeah, exactly. So what I was going to say before I got into these polls is it's funny because...
What happened before you got into these polls?
Whatever. I can't stand the two of y'all.
Hey, talk out.
Anyway, so every week I kind of try to look around to see and get inspiration for like our next topic. And it's funny that we decided pretty much right after last week's episode that we were going to do mental health, right? So then the following week I had such a breakdown at work.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I had the biggest breakdown that I've had in a very long time because my mom passed. So since my mom died, I haven't broken down to the point of breaking down that I did last week. And my girl Mel was right there with me. She was my therapist for the day. She took me outside and just, talked me through it, let me cry it out. And, I was a mess for the whole day, but I made it through. So I was like, you know what? This is the inspiration that I needed. I needed to feel this. I needed to go through this so that we could talk about it some more on the podcast. So
you always have to feel your emotions. You can't let them overpower you to the point that you let it take over your entire life for just too much time, because then you'll go deeper and deeper down a sinking hole. But if you feel something in the moment, feel it, express it, and then just wheel it in.
Yeah.
But you always have to let it out.
Yeah.
When it wants to come out, because I feel like when you don't, then it'll get trapped somewhere else in your body and cause some issues. And
exactly. Oh my God. That is exactly what happens with me. And that's actually something I wanted to talk about when it comes to your mental health, because sometimes when you I don't even know if it's sometimes. I kind of feel like it's all the time. When you experience a traumatic event, it kind of stays in your body.
Absolutely.
And, say you go through your healing process around the same time next year, it's almost like an anniversary of that traumatic experience. It will come up inside of you. And that's exactly what happened to me this past week, because my mom passed on October 10th. 8 years ago. But every year Babe has pointed out to me that around this time I always get super, super anxious. I can completely just unravel. And for some reason this year, it really hit me hard. Like, I just was feeling horrible and just really anxious, and I didn't even understand what the reason was until like the day before I broke down at work. And I was just thinking about it. I almost like got taken back to that day when I found out that she died. And it's not October 10th yet, but it's in the weeks prior to when she died.
Yeah, I told you that she was sick during this time, and you were witnessing that. So this is all still trauma that's coming back.
Yeah.
Through, and I feel like with this podcast, with you doing so much work in school, this is what it's supposed to be. You have to feel these things, and you have to get them out, because how are you going to help people? You know, with all these things that you're suppressing yourself.
Exactly.
So you're going to tell people to work through their shit, but you're not working through your own. So this is just all the timing of it all.
Yeah.
It's like a collective of things.
You're dead on. And I like what you told me about releasing it little at a time and like journaling about it and just like allowing myself to feel those emotions. And it really does help because I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, but when I went through that experience of watching my mom deteriorate, like she was a very large woman and she had cancer and she shrunk to a very small size. So that was hard to see her in that, you know, capacity. And then I dealt with seeing her on in hospice and, you know, not wanting to be around and seeing her that way. So I was feeling guilty this year. Like I never experienced that. I never experienced feeling guilty until this year, which is weird.
Yeah.
But I felt guilty. And like you were just talking me through it, like saying, you know, you were there in the way that you could be there for her. So I forgot the point that I was going to make, but like I was just working through all those emotions and I kind of buried it at the time when she died. Cause babe, you remember when I went through that experience, I was just sitting on the bed crying this deep, dark cry of despair for like a long, like, I don't know if it was a long time, but it was like to the point where I was like, okay, this hurts way too much for me to handle. I got to stop. Like I had to pull myself back. Yeah. I had to pull myself back because I could have sank into a depression, you know, if I allowed myself. But so what you're saying is a good point, to just release it little at a time. Allow yourself to feel it, but release it a little at a time. Write it down, process your thoughts, but don't just bury it because it's just gonna explode out of you.
It will, and it
Like
can cause illnesses. You can have stomach issues. You can have headaches. You can just there's so many different avenues it could go in. I feel like all of that weakens your immune system, and you're more susceptible to a lot of things.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. I deal with that all the time. I have anxiety and I get the muscle tension and, you know, stomach issues and all that. So
my anxiety has gone down a lot, which is good. I feel like one of the main things with anxiety, because it's a horrifying, it's a horrifying experience. But one of the main things with anxiety is pinpointing what exactly is triggering the anxiety, and then dealing with working through that to calm it down. You know, but aside from other things like practices of deep breathing and things like that, but finding out exactly what it is that is causing it is like the most important thing. And
there's so many things that can cause it, you know. Our friend and listener Jessica mentioned that like birth control can cause like
your hormones like that. When you're putting a foreign hormone into your body, just throwing everything out of whack, there's so many things that can that can happen with that.
It's even food, believe it or not.
Even food? I can't really hear you.
Even like food, certain foods and stuff like that can do it too, because you got like
there you go,
there it is,
soy meal, that kind of stuff. It's like the components in soy is very similar to estrogen.
Yeah, they say eating too much of it.
That's why tofu, it's not a good idea to eat a lot of it.
You would have to eat a lot of it to, well, I guess in some cultures they do.
Some cultures they do. Based on.
That's I don't really eat so much soy, but I've heard that definitely.
Yeah, it's You guys can keep talking. I was looking through Jessica's story because she was telling me about what happened to her, in terms of when she was taking birth control.
I'm so happy I've never taken that.
Really?
Good for you, because it messes you up, man.
But I will say, I hate putting my business out there, but I have taken the Plan B.
Mm-hmm.
And I was horrified at how horrible I felt. I was so emotional, and nothing made sense. I was so whacked out.
Yeah, because
I was rough. Like, you remember?
Yeah.
That works.
I was like, never again am I taking this.
Yeah, because Jessica was saying that she went through a period of time where she couldn't even get through the day without crying. And she was having like dreams of suicide.
That's crazy.
That's not good.
Yeah, she had sadness and anger majority of the times, and
these doctors are just out here prescribing shit without even knowing like the effects on people.
Yeah, she had to get off the birth control, and then she felt better. It's insane.
It also depends on which one, because there's so many different kinds. There's different levels of a hormone in each one.
Right.
So, like what you were saying with the Plan B is just like that. What that is really super shots of hormone.
Yes. It's a super dose of birth control.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
That's what it is.
All that your body needs to throw out that delicate balance is a huge influx of one of the hormones. Yeah. And it's a wrap.
The crazy thing is, though, she was taking low estrogen, which is known for being low in estrogen.
That's why it's called low estrogen.
So it's crazy, that. So, yeah, that's...
See, they were real creative with that when they invented that name.
Clearly.
Yeah, so anxiety seems to be very prevalent nowadays. You always hear people talking about anxiety, like, I'm anxious about this, I have anxiety, but, there's many different forms of anxiety. People have social anxiety. You could just have, like, general anxiety, like, just chronic anxiety. So...
It's chronic anxiety. Just a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, I say chronic. It's not really like an actual clinical term.
It's real bad.
It's really bad. No, but like generalized anxiety is when you have it for like 6 months or more, and it interferes with your daily functioning. You feel like intense like fear about stuff, and it's kind of like outside of reality. It doesn't measure up with what's really going on. So. It's not fun to experience that.
I meant to look up foods that would help with that.
Foods.
So if I find it, I'll give it to you and you can post it.
Okay.
I would imagine anything that you can eat that kind of
that's extremely healthy.
You. No, like chamomile maybe. Well, that might be too weak, but I'm thinking something like that. Melatonin.
I'll look into
those kind of things might work.
And lavender is good.
Yeah, the scents.
Yeah, that's like aromatherapy or whatever. That's not food, but
meditation and yoga are key to life. That's what I learned these past few days. I've managed to wake up early and do a morning meditation and a morning yoga. Nothing long,
so what time
like
you get up?
30. So I set my alarm for 5:50.
Oh, that's way too
He's
early.
dead to the world at 5:50.
Yeah, and I did a 10-minute meditation video. And then I did a 15-minute yoga. And it just puts me in such a good mood.
Yeah.
I felt so amazing.
I got to try that.
The past 2 days.
So wait, you do meditation first? Which
I
is
do
like
meditation
you just sit
first.
in a quiet room, I'm assuming.
Well, it's a guided meditation video.
Oh, okay.
So I had set the living room up before I went to bed. So I had my yoga mats with the pillow ready. So I put my video on. And it's just a guided meditation, deep breathing, just setting an intention for the day, all of that goodness. And then the 15-minute yoga, which is more like just like stretching with deep breathing. And it was...
That sounds wonderful.
That would help.
That makes sense because the exercising will get the endorphins going. So
Yeah.
That works.
And I wake up kind of stiff anyway, so it's
too.
like it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I see what all the hoopla is about. Because I was just like, who gets up early and does this
I
shit?
can't
This
get up
sounds
that
so
early.
stupid.
You could barely
And
get
I
up at
finally
the time
did
you
it, and
got
I'm like,
I can't do that.
that's
I'm
how
sorry.
I normally am. But I've been so like, I have to get out this bed and do this.
Yeah.
And I did it.
Yeah.
See, that's the tough part, right there, the dedication for it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Especially because it's still super dark out.
Mm.
So it's like,
And that
You
bed's
wanna
gonna be real
stay
comfortable.
you're
nestled in
doing
your-
it. I know. Wait till the winter comes.
Yo.
Oh
It's
my
gonna be a
God.
bitch, but I'm
You
gonna
can do
try. I'm gonna try to keep it going because
Yeah.
there's such a mood difference in my driving.
You're not
And
angry?
I'm not angry, and my day at work it's complete difference.
Really?
Yeah, you were like a ray of light in the office today.
Wow.
She was beaming.
So today was your first day?
No, yesterday.
Yesterday. All
It
right.
was wonderful.
We'll see how it goes.
Let's see. Monday, I'm gonna be like,
try
meh.
It's much better than waking up and looking at social media right away.
Mm.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out that habit.
Yeah, me too. It's hard though. It's kind of addicting, social media. But anyway, since we're talking about anxiety, you were mentioning ways that you can ease
Naturally,
your
yeah.
anxiety naturally.
Yeah.
Anxiety is like based in like fear and like the fear of the unknown or fear of things in the past repeating itself, or I feel like it stems from negative thought, like your negative thought patterns and like the negative narrative that you tell yourself.
Everything is based on that, unfortunately.
Very true.
Everything negative is from that.
Very true.
Yeah.
So changing that narrative in your mind, like I don't remember if I told this story already, forgive me if I did, but I was on the plane on the way back from Texas with my husband, Babe, and my daughter, and I do not like flying. I get like extremely
either.
anxious,
Really?
Yeah.
and it's not for the
Came
reason
with
you would
age.
think.
Mm.
Really?
Yeah.
See, for me, I just don't like flying because I'm afraid someone's going to get sick and then I'm stuck on the plane. That is the reason why I get anxious. That's all I worry about. I don't worry about the plane going down. I'm cool. Like I'm fine. I don't worry about that.
Things.
You know, like the major disasters of being on a plane. I don't worry about that. I worry about somebody
Snaps
getting
in
sick.
half. No, I'm not worried about that.
Like a weirdo. But anyway, so we're coming back on the plane and I just all of a sudden start getting like really hot. My heart is like fluttering. I'm just like panicking for no reason. There's nothing going on. We're just flying. And I'm watching Babe and my daughter and I'm just like, they're chilling. Like, Inaya's like jamming something on her iPad and Babe is just chilling with his eyes closed. And I'm like, looking at him and I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like, we're fine. Like, you literally have to go into your mind and talk yourself down. Like, okay, you're okay. Nothing's happening. It's fine. If there even was something to happen, you'd still be okay. Like, this is the conversation I have to have with myself on a daily basis because of anxiety. So doing things like that really does help. Like, change that negative narrative in your mind and focusing on the present.
Yeah.
Because I get caught up in thinking too far ahead about things like for instance, like people getting sick. Like who does that? But like I'm like, oh my God, what if this person gets sick and then this and then this and then this and then this and then my mind goes crazy and it's like over and over and over and over in my head.
I'm overwhelmed hearing it.
See? That's what anxiety feels like.
This is
I clearly don't suffer
this is
from
every
it.
day.
I have it
Every day.
I have it once. I was having it once in a blue when my period was coming.
No, that makes sense though.
But
the hormones.
yeah, aside from that,
Yeah.
I don't have anxiety really.
It's rough. It
Unless I'm
breaks you down
stressed.
sometimes.
Super stressed, but
Yeah. It is rough. It is rough.
That's why they say when you sometimes when you talk, if you don't want to be angry or something, you smile when you talk.
Ah.
You know, like you force yourself into a smile and you get happy.
You
you may
force
look a little
yourself into a
crazy.
I think it works. I
It
think
does
it works.
work though. No, that's an angry thing right there.
I think it works.
That's like constipation right there. A
Me?
smile.
Me? What?
Because I made a face. I was
You
trying
didn't
to
see
force
it,
a
no.
smile, but it didn't look right.
Let me see.
Can't do it. Now I'm smiling too hard. I can't do it.
See, it worked.
Oh, man. That's good. I never heard that before.
Mhm. That's why I'm such a happy person.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The lies.
What look like the Joker, like
Everybody
the
at
original
work says I'm
Joker
happy.
from Batman. Oh man. But on the flip side, things that can negatively affect your mental health. I know you're gonna like this one, like poor diet, lack of exercise. You're like an advocate for being healthy.
I mean, yeah. Being vegan is life.
There's only like 5 of y'all. That's why.
And we are healthy as hell.
Yo, man, I saw like a news article. Was it you who sent it to me? No, somebody sent me something of this woman who's like, I don't even know, maybe 70, and she looks like our age.
No, she's living the dream. Her
And
husband's on like 1,000 medications.
Yeah, that one.
Still a meat eater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she grows her own food. She's
She's got
amazing.
like a whole like plant, like I don't even know. What do you call those things where people grow plants in? What's that thing?
A greenhouse?
A green.
A farm?
I didn't even know what was. I was like, wait, what?
And something bigger, maybe
What are we
a farm.
figuring out? What are we figuring out?
Okay, these Long Island iced teas are starting to kick in a little bit. A little bit. Not getting sleep too.
Yeah, that definitely.
That can
sleep
definitely
deprivation
affect.
definitely does it to a lot of people. You can see it.
That's what triggers a lot of people with bipolar
Mm-hmm.
and other illnesses.
Yeah.
Is the lack of sleep.
Yeah.
They go a little crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a symptom of bipolar
Mm-hmm.
disorder. It's listed.
Say it slow.
Yeah, negative outlook on life. Oh, a negative thought life and disposition, like constantly complaining and, you know, having that woe is me attitude. We know people like this.
You know, it's funny that you guys
They
mentioned that.
really
happen
get
to
under my
me.
skin, these people.
What
I
do you
heard
say?
this on the way home from work today. They had like, I forgot what radio station it was on, but they were talking about that. Some university did a study, and they said that it actually rewires your brain,
I
thinking
believe
negatively.
it. I
and
believe
it
it.
permanently damages it that way.
Wow.
So they say when you have thoughts like that, one of the things you can do to a person that's whining like that all day, say, well, what are you going to do to fix it? And that usually disarms the person. But if that doesn't work, then just walk away. Basically.
I'm trying to find compassion for this person
Because
because I feel my patience getting
away.
very thin.
You just gotta walk away.
I cannot.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad to me to encounter people like that who are just constantly like, and meanwhile they have like a wonderful life. Like, why are you constantly focusing on the negative? I wonder where that comes from though. Like, why, especially if your life is really not that bad, like, why are you focused on this so much? And why are you constantly complaining and, you know?
You know, I can't make sense of it. I can't handle it. It drives me insane.
Especially when there's people out there who are really, really going through it. Like,
Yes.
there's, I mean, everybody's situation is relative, but still, like, sometimes it helps me. Like, when I get stuck in my little unrealistic anxiety attack things, like, to think about what other people are really going through and then think about how blessed I am in my life. And it kind of grounds me a little bit. So, I don't know.
What do y'all think about the latest current event that happened with that guy in the subway?
Oh,
You know the
God.
story?
I don't know what's happening because I don't watch.
You
the
know
news,
about
so what
this,
happened?
I think. The man in the
BX?
Bronx
Yeah, in the BX.
who was holding his 6-year-old
Oh.
daughter and jumped off the platform of the subway. He
Mhm.
died, and thank God the little girl was able to crawl out and
Like,
she
she didn't
survived.
really have any scratches.
Like, you can't tell me that wasn't God.
Definitely. But the crazy thing is that obviously she's going to be traumatized because she saw her father under there.
She did?
Yeah, there was a statement where she said that daddy had something wrong with his stomach.
Oh, God.
So apparently he must have gotten ripped open there. And she saw that.
I am praying that her psychological immune system kicks in and will block that out of her memory.
Yeah.
You know, and that she won't grow up with that. I mean, I'm sure it'll still affect her in some way, but I'm praying that she's so young that it will just fall off somehow or stay in the background. Or I mean, and she lost her father, so obviously it's gonna affect her either way. But God,
I wonder what brought him to that.
He was
me
depressed.
too.
He was depressed and he was taking medication and all that, but I don't know. I don't know the whole story yet, but maybe on that day it just was too much.
Man, depression is real.
What makes you take her with you?
I
Why'd
wonder,
you have to
I
take
think
her with
that's,
you?
to me, I would say that's self-centered. That's being greedy. Because you
well,
want to take her with you because you want her with you.
we can't say
They have
that
such a
because-
different rationale.
That's true too.
People that are ill,
Yeah.
that we can't even say it's.
Yeah, you can't really.
Yeah, because you
speculate.
never know. Maybe her mother wasn't there. You know what I mean? So maybe he was all that she had. So he
No,
was like,
no,
if I'm going to
apparently-
take myself, then I'll
No,
take you
apparently
too.
he left the house. That they're together.
Oh.
Yeah, and he left with the baby. It was like down the block from the house.
Well, when
Yeah.
when you're at that point of like ready to
I
kill
think it was
yourself, then
just
you're not in your right
something
mind.
Finally, hit, and he couldn't do it no more.
That's terrible. God,
Yeah.
that's terrible.
Maybe he just felt like this world is so cold. You don't need to be
Yeah,
here.
it
You
could've
just
been
never
anything.
know. You just
Yeah.
never know
You'll never
what
know.
the.
Ugh.
But that's
so sad.
the messed up part about something like that. You don't. There's no way for you to know what they think because by that point, usually they've killed themselves.
Yeah.
So you don't know what that mechanism is yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody could theorize and say, "Oh, it's because of this or that or whatever,"
Man,
but
I
you never
mean,
really heard it from that person, so you can't really say what it was.
depression is really, really real, and it's very difficult to deal with. And if I just encourage anybody, if anybody's out there and they're depressed or, they're dealing with thoughts of suicide, just reach out. There's so many resources. I'm going to put some resources in the show notes, as well as listed at the end of this video. There's an organization called RAINN. It's RAINN.org. If you've experienced any kind of trauma in your life, like rape, sexual assault, anything, like incest, anything, and you're having a hard time dealing with it, the cool thing about that organization is sometimes people aren't really ready to, sit down in front of somebody and just talk about whatever they've been through. They have an anonymous chat that you can go on and chat with somebody even if you're in the middle of a crisis, even if you have a plan for how you're going to kill yourself and you're like right there and you're about to do it and you're like, no, I need to talk to somebody. You can go online and you can chat with somebody, usually pretty much right away. And these people are trained to talk to you, talk it through with you and, de-escalate your situation and just give you the resources that you need to get you to a place where you can be safe.
Wow.
That's a place that I used to volunteer with, and the stories that I used to hear.
I thought about doing it, and every time I'm like, oh God, I don't know
God,
that
you would be
I
great for
can
that.
because
To do
I'm
it.
such an emotional person that I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna feel everything that I hear. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
can I really handle it?
That's the same thing I thought, right?
I might tell everyone to run,
I
and I
mean-
can't tell everyone, girl, get out, get out.
Yeah.
Run.
But you know what? The crazy thing about doing stuff like that is that that's your instinct to say that. But the way that they train you how to talk to the people is you actually are there to listen. And that listening ear is, and that non-judgment and the believing in them, believing their story. Those things are just so much more powerful than anything. Like you don't even need to tell them
Judgment
get
is
out.
key. Because
Yeah.
when you have family and friends, I know that people mean well, but when you're in a situation and you've been going through a certain thing so many times, there's only so much that they want to really deal with. Then they can start losing patience, and it's just then the judgment kicks in, and then now you feel more alone than anything.
Exactly. And it's just like hearing like them change the tone from like being in utter despair and in like a crisis situation to just being heard and validated. Like that change is so significant, and it leads them in the direction of like recovery and, finding what it is that they need to get through what they're going through, or gives them the strength to maybe leave. So what you would want for them actually ends up manifesting itself just through you being there for them and listening and believing them and validating them. And that was amazing for me. Like the very first chat that I had was really hard because I spoke to someone who was in a marriage and who is being sexually abused by her husband, which
God.
people don't realize that is a thing.
How it exists.
That is a thing, you know? So I spoke to her and I heard her story and just the fear of like, she's like, he's coming home soon. What do I do kind of thing. And man, people are really going through it. It's hard. It is hard. Life is hard, but there is so much support out there. There is hope out there. And there are resources, you know? Just don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Man, that took me back. So those stories, you're right though. Like you feel it. You really feel it. But when you're in action and you're really like helping them, it's like you get like a different kind of energy. You get energized and it's like you kind of find a place for your emotions sometimes. Not all the time because we're human, so we can't always control it, but you know, you focus in on that person and helping them. So man, I highly recommend that for you because I think you would do really well with that.
Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah, but are you ready? To talk about
I'm fine.
bipolar disorder?
I guess. I mean, you have to lead it in.
Well, for those of you who don't know what bipolar disorder is, if you think about the name bipolar, it's shifting from like one extreme to the next. So there's two different bipolar disorders. There's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 is the more severe one, and that involves at least one manic episode. A manic episode is when it's like a heightened energy, and you know, you have excessive thoughts, like fleeting thoughts, and you know, sometimes it can involve a psychotic break. There's a lot that can be said about bipolar disorder, and you know, they often feel, you know, feelings of, what's the word, grandiosity, like inflated self-esteem kind of thing. Like you said before, they feel like they don't need as much sleep. They'll feel like they're rested off for 3 hours of sleep.
I don't think that they can sleep. I think that they're just wired.
Keyed up.
It's a certain energy that's with it.
Yeah. It's like a significant mood disturbance. Like they completely shift and change. Totally different than what they normally are.
I think the sleep is the main thing, and your stress level that triggers the breakdown. So I feel like I've been avoiding this because I feel like it's such a sensitive topic, and I don't want to offend anyone that may have, you know, bipolar, have a family member with it, because it's really, it's so hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Because you go from so many different extremes. Like, so as we know, my ex was bipolar type 1. So he was severe. Now I have no experience with anything with mental illness prior to him. And so what's funny is I was on the way here and I was thinking, what about me drew this specific character to me? What was I lacking that brought that to me? Or what lesson was I to get from such a situation?
What do you think?
I'm not sure. I think that at the time I had such low self-esteem. And they're so sharp. I don't want to say these people, but they're also, a lot of them are also narcissistic. So people with these traits, characteristics, are very sharp at triggering weaknesses in people. And I had the perfect weaknesses for him to come in and just run it, so to speak. So I was low self-esteem. I was that, very compassionate, take care of you, immediately go into wifey play.
Yeah.
I just was this person, and I didn't do enough of the learning prior, because they know exactly how to come at you.
Yeah.
He came at me with so much love and attention,
He did.
and he made it so that I can trust him. And that was always my main thing in relationships, is the lack of trust, because of the type of people that I've dealt with, and the cheating and the this. So he brought everything that I wanted in it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember or think far back enough to remember conversations that we've had that perhaps I led him to that role in some way. So I'm wondering if the lesson is just me. Obviously, I needed to build myself, and all of that ended up happening. But anyway.
Yeah.
So there were so many signs in the beginning, but I didn't know what to look for. Because at the same time, he was also dealing with such a traumatic experience, a loss that was very close to him. So a lot of behavior I would excuse as him mourning this loss.
And that's often a trigger.
So he went for a while just wonderful with me. But then here and there, you know, I would get cursed at. But then it would follow up with a cry. And so then it would turn into he's mourning. And so now I don't know how to play this. It is, because you want to be mad, but then you're so compassionate to the fact that this person lost such a close person that it's like, okay, you're mourning, you're just having outbursts. So now we fast forward time. I'm seeing interactions between him and his family, but I don't understand. Maybe that's their dynamic, but it was very dysfunctional, but maybe that's just what it is. And then the outbursts just became more frequent. But at this point, I'm in it. We're living together. He's living with me. And I don't know, because it goes from good to extremely bad, back to good to bad. And it was just this thing. And so nobody told me, he didn't tell me, his family didn't tell me that he was bipolar. So one day we're in the house, I'm sleeping and I hear him up, and he's just up. And I'm just like, why isn't he sleeping? And then all of a sudden the next morning he spazzes. And I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. He was so verbally abusive. I mean, anything horrible that you can say to someone is what would be said. If at the time my weight was an issue, that's what would be attacked. But then it was also, you know, before he attacked me verbally, the attacks would be targeted at other people, friends. This person's jealous, this person's mad, and he was just always under attack. And I couldn't place what was happening because I have no experience with this. So finally, I'm probably skipping a whole bunch of shit, but this is a couple years now, so it's hard to remember. But I know that he ended up leaving my house, and he stayed for a few days out, and then he checked himself into the psych ward. And then I found out that he's bipolar. I still don't know what this means.
Right.
So now I go to the psych ward, and it's weird. He's not checked in yet, but they're locked in like a waiting room. They have no shoes on, I believe. They have no belts. They have no anything. And I'll never forget when I went to see him. He was so happy to see me, but he looked so different. And I was just like, what's happening? Am I dealing with right now?
Yeah.
And then I went in to speak to him. They let me go in a room with him privately to speak to him. And I I was like, oh my God, like I had to talk to this man like he was a child. I had to coddle him. And I was coddling him because I felt so bad. He just looked like such a wounded bird.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I don't even know. I don't know what I'm dealing with.
Right. Was he medicated at that point?
Not yet.
Oh.
So now, he gets his sister to sign him out. He doesn't stay. They give him medication to help him sleep. I didn't know this was a thing. Now she's like, we probably should have left him in there. But this is not the first time she has signed him out before. So this is a reoccurring thing that no one filled me in on.
Wow.
So we get the medication. We go back to the house. I'm a little on edge.
Of course.
But I'm taking him home with me. This is, he, you know, takes the medication. He sleeps for a while. He seems to get a little bit in a groove for a little bit. Shortly thereafter, maybe like a couple months, the manic that I saw is unspeakable. It's almost, and a part of me wonders if this is a spiritual situation. I think it's more spiritual than anything. Because any time that he went full-blown manic, there was a glaze over his eyes. And he didn't look present to me at all.
That's scary.
So, verbal abuse. I get him out to stay at his sister's, you know, get him out for a while. He comes back. It's this back and forth situation. Till one day, he goes manic. And I had so much anxiety in bed because I heard him go up and down the stairs, in and out the house. He was chain smoking. Excuse me. But once I heard that he wasn't sleeping, I was like, I'm in so much shit for the morning. And I don't know how exactly this is going to go, but I know I'm in some shit.
Yeah.
Okay. About 5:30 in the morning. My bedroom door slams open. Bang. So I'm skipping a whole story. I'm skipping a whole story. So apparently people who go manic have urges. They have financial urges. They have sexual urges.
Yes.
Everything is extremely extreme. They get money, they blow it.
Yeah.
So apparently he cheated on me on one of his tours. I had no idea. Now, the funny thing is I feel like spiritually I knew for a while that something happened because we were off. We were so off. But he wasn't honest and I didn't know. So I think that this weighed very heavy on him. And so one time when he was manic, he called my phone repeatedly this one night and finally on the phone said, I cheated on you on this tour. I slept with someone else. And then that was at like 1 a.m. And at 4 a.m. he comes in the house. First he comes in the house. I knew he was manic because he came in the house and he was talking about how someone across the street was watching him. Then he was sobbing. He was so uncontrollable. And all I could think is, I don't want to get kicked out of my apartment for this tantrum. I couldn't even have a minute to process what happened. I had to calm this man down and get him to sleep.
Yeah.
So that happened. Continue the mania. So now fast forward back to where I was. So the door slams open. You fucking bitch, I caught you. So he's showing me Instagram. Apparently someone liked my photo. He claims this person liked a lot of my photos. I don't even follow the person back.
Wow.
You could have figured that out since you went so ham all night
Yeah.
investigating this. So I'm trying to calm him down. I'm like half asleep, half awake. All of a sudden, he grabs me by my neck and puts me up against the closet and just starts choking me. And I'm just staring at him. I don't know what exactly was happening. I just know that it wasn't him, because he was just so, the eyes were so glazed over. It wasn't him, but there was so much hatred for me. And I was just, he finally just let go. And ironically, this happened on my grandmother's birthday, and she had passed. And so my aunt thinks that she was present and stopped him from continuing. And I believe it only because two other times, like one other time in this same time frame, he tried to come at me again to choke me again, but then it looked like something like caught him. And then another time he looked like he was ready to swing on me, and then it looked like it would caught him again. Like he just couldn't go forward enough to do it.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So I think I went into autopilot because I still took a shower for work. Got dressed.
Yeah.
Asked him if he wanted a ride. He told me to go fuck myself. I was like, okay. Like I just knew I wanted him out. I just didn't know how. I was so confused. And then I get in the car and I drive to work. And I think it hit me somewhat there. I called his dad. I was like, you have to get this man out my house. This is what just happened. And it's funny because I feel like his dad didn't. You can tell he was just like, oh, but it wasn't an oh that was shocked at what happened. It was more like, oh, that happened to you? And he sounded like he didn't really want him back at the house. But, and the funny thing is, it never dawned on me to ever call the cops. Because at the end of the day, this was still my wounded bird.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he got out the house. I had to go to the other house to try to get my keys. But anyway, situations happened. Now he ended up in the psych ward. So I went to see him at the psych ward. And I've never been more like afraid and horrified.
Yeah.
At just how extreme everything is. Everyone looks very medicated. And I know I understand that they don't want to take the medication because of the way it makes them feel.
Yeah.
I completely understand it. But there's so much other work that needs to be done. But the issue is accepting the fact that you have this. The issue is when they feel well, they don't want to accept that they have this situation, and the work goes to the wayside, and then it just happens again, and it happens again, and it happens again.
Yeah.
So I stayed in this space for a while. We weren't together, but I still was there. I didn't know how to leave this situation because I just felt so guilty. I felt like, how can I say that I love this person and then just leave them while they're so sick? He's clearly sick. And this played on me so much. And he played it against me so much.
He did.
Yeah, in ways he did. He knew. And it lasted for a couple months. And it was weird because I still didn't feel safe with him.
Yeah.
But there was just so much guilt.
Yeah.
There was so much guilt. How can I love someone and leave them like this? But at the end of the day, what you have to realize is, if this person is not willing to help themselves, you cannot help them.
Right. Absolutely.
And you cannot keep putting yourself into a darker and darker place trying to carry this.
Right.
And I felt like I was trying to carry him, but I was so broken
Yeah.
At this point, I was so broken. So finally, I guess I just finally had enough, because the verbal abuse didn't stop. He just stayed in this manic space for so long. So long. I just couldn't get myself to visit the psych ward anymore. I couldn't get myself to want to see him. I was so tired. I couldn't. And I went to therapy, and it helped a tiny bit. But then the therapist, not every therapist is for you, and not everyone is trained properly.
Right.
Or can hold themselves properly. Because I would never forget the one thing she said, and I was so horrified at it. She said, well, you're either going to stay or you're going to go. If you love him, you'll work it out. If you don't, you'll leave.
Which is not the right thing to say as a therapist.
And I was so baffled, because I feel like at that point, it kind of mind fucked me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, but I do love him. How can I stay in this? Like, I tried every which way to mentally stay in this. When I tell you I was up at night Googling relationships, women with men who are bipolar. I Googled, manic bipolar choking. And what horrified me the most is that there were so many stories of women who are getting physically assaulted in this relationship. And it's horrible, because when it's good, it's so good. But when it's bad, it's so bad.
Right.
And in every story, it was exactly the same thing. They would start on the medication. They would start to get better. They don't like the medication. They feel like, it makes them feel this. It makes them feel that. They feel fine. They get off of it. Manic happens. Attacks happen. And it was every article that I was seeing. And I remember just crying like, this cannot be my life. And it finally just kind of sank in that this cannot be what I deal with on a regular basis, because I was already so in a hole.
Right.
So I finally I ended it, and I just left it. Like I went a solid year. I want to say that lasted for like 4 months of the back and forth, trying to be there for him and be his friend, but not be with him and heal myself. But no matter what, I wasn't with him. But me trying to be there for him, I wasn't doing anything for him. I was just a punching bag for him. And it wasn't, I wasn't getting anything from it. And I took, I want to say, about a year to just try to build back up. And it took cutting off all communication is what it took to get me to that point. A lot of crying and just a lot of silence. And to this day, he tries to reach out here and there. And as much as I wish him well, and as much as I still love him, I will never speak to that man again. Because I will never allow you to suck me back into that space. Because it's a guarantee that that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
100%.
Lord Jesus.
So I understand the aspect of the person who's not well and the medication, all that. But for the people that have to be in that situation, really evaluate if you have to be in that situation, because it depends on the toxicity of that situation. If you're being touched at all, you don't need to be in that situation.
Your safety is priority.
You can feel sympathetic, but you can't allow yourself to feel guilty. You didn't do this. You can't help this person. This is their work solely.
That's right.
Solely. You have to be a real certain caliber of person to deal with that. That was not I don't have it.
I just want to touch on something that you mentioned when you first started talking about this, and how you said, I wonder what it was about me. I wonder what it was that I was lacking that drew him to me. And I don't think that's an accurate statement, because I don't think it's something that you were lacking. I think I understand what you were saying about like the low self-esteem and everything, and you know how he played on that, and I agree with that. I get that, but I'm sitting here listening to you now tell this story. I'm sitting here thinking about how I saw you go through this and the sheer terror in your eyes when you showed up to work that day after he choked you, and after he would go into the hospital and come out, and you were just so afraid. You didn't know what was going to happen, and how you went through that process of, okay, I know I can't be in this relationship anymore and I'm going to leave him, and how you worked on yourself simultaneously. You went to a therapist and you drew yourself back little by little by little, which was very smart, I think. And I'm just thinking about how strong you are. You are a strong woman, Mel. And it wasn't that you attracted him because you were lacking something. It was because God knew that in the future you would be here and you would be telling this story. And you're going to help somebody who's going through this situation right now. And you're going to give them that strength that they need to get through it, to get over it. Not get over it, but get through it, you know, and to leave that situation. There might be somebody listening right now who is experiencing this or something similar. And just hearing that you made it to the other side.
Yeah.
And that you're okay is going to change somebody's life. And that's why you went through this situation.
I'm uncomfortably smiling.
And
I'm not
so
smiling. I'm not smiling because I'm a weirdo. Like,
No,
I don't want to get emotional. I'm smiling.
I'm sorry that I'm getting emotional. It's just that I saw this whole progression.
I lived it, girl. I
and
know.
Every time, and yeah, of course.
But,
and just watching the growth that you've come, you know, that you've gone through because of it. It's just admirable.
I definitely realized after the situation that it was a growth that was so necessary for me.
Yeah.
And it took this type of situation to really elevate me to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And there was this lady that I listened to. Now, she said narcissist, but I took it as just anything in this, you know, aspect. But she goes, you know, when a narcissist comes into your life, and I took this as narcissist, mental, like, and just anything really difficult. She's like, don't be upset, be happy, because you're about to graduate to a whole nother level. Because I know that I grew so much from this situation.
You did.
It was like night and day from who I was. It was almost like a part of me just completely died.
Yeah.
But something so much better grew out of it. But it was the hardest. It was the hardest thing.
Yeah.
That I've ever gone through.
I honestly don't know how you did it.
The hardest thing I ever gone through.
I don't know how you did it, but I'm so proud of you, because that was hard. That was really hard.
Like, even thinking back to it, it's like, oh my God.
I'm telling you, this time
it was horrifying.
You remember, babe, I called you hysterical crying, worried about you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but you good. You all right. You good. You made it through.
Yeah.
You made it
through.
Yeah,
you definitely. And that's one of the things I learned throughout this process. I wasn't the type of person to put myself first, and you always have to put yourself first, because you know you have to be a whole person.
Absolutely.
You have to be at your best, and I never put myself first. I always put people's feelings and everything above my own. And I was doing that for that entire relationship. It was so about him. And I literally had nothing left, but every tiny bit that I had went into him. And I was so depressed. It was just, I was so sad all the time. And I was like,
you weren't the happy, bubbly, funny,
no, I was
fun-loving Mel that we all know.
I was so sad. And I was just like, my God, this can't be permanent. But But then a part of me felt like this had to be my life. You know what I'm saying? That guilt really weighs so heavy. And I noticed that in the trend of the stories that I read online by these women. Everyone felt so bad leaving. Everyone just felt so bad. And so they didn't leave.
How could you
And
not?
so they didn't leave. And some of them had children. And that's the one thing that scared me the most. I said, what if I had a child?
Yeah.
There's a very strong possibility that they would have had it.
The sheer fear of him going manic and me having this child with me.
Yeah.
Like there was just so many negatives, but the guilt just overpowered everything. And these women were staying in these relationships for years. And years.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
Shit.
Woo, Lord.
Yeah.
I'm just
so
happy to see where you are today, girl.
Put yourself first.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
I'm not saying that you can't be with someone like this, not if they're physical, but you have to be such a strong individual, and you have to really be secure in every avenue of your life to be able to handle someone who is going to attack you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because when this person goes manic, you're going to be the point of interest. At first, I wasn't.
Yeah.
It was the family and friends that were getting attacked. I was the queen. And so I didn't fully know what was happening. I was like, well, he's clearly mad at these people. There must be things that I'm not really clear about.
Yeah.
But really, it eventually comes to you. And then you're the focal point.
Yeah. Yes, Lord.
So.
You mentioned a lot of stuff, though, about, like, his experience in the hospital and how man, our mental health system is broken. It's not efficient.
The medication just dumbed him out.
Yeah.
It just made him tired and slowed him down. Everything about him was slow. He was very childlike. So the medication doesn't do anything but, like, dull you down to not really.
But then on the flip side, you got to look at how it used to be. And it was way worse.
That's very true. But there's definitely things that need to happen because the fact that he was able to get signed out. You know what I mean? Like, you got to look at the history of how often
you know what's so sad to me is that it clearly was something that happened so often because he knew exactly how to play it.
Yep.
He told me, I mean, he was manic at the time, but he told me, he was like, he doesn't tell the truth in therapy sessions. Yeah. He will never let them in because he thinks that they are out to get him. And so he would lie, and he knew how to. Once he got enough sleep, he would come a little more into his mind, and he would know how to manipulate the situation and get out. And this is just the routine. This is the routine.
That is very sad.
He's too untrusting to do therapy. But therapy is the one thing that you need, because the reason that a lot of these manic breakdowns happen or bipolar comes about, I don't want to say that it comes about, I'm sure it's something that you have, but I feel like traumatic experiences in your life will trigger these manic episodes.
Absolutely.
So this is something that'll never be worked through because therapists are the enemy, and they're gonna use it against you, and it's kept in a file. And I get it, but you're never going to heal from this. So this is gonna be the lifelong cycle. And a part of me was like scared to let him go and let him go back into the world. And what if, like, who's taking care of him? Like all I thought about was who's gonna take care of him.
Yeah.
I can't let him ever be like homeless. Yeah. Like I was just like, my thought, like I just was so wrapped up in him and his well-being.
Yeah. There needs to be better like aftercare for situations like that. You know, because if that's one thing that I really
there
believe
needs to be
in.
a better understanding of what it is. You
That
know, we
too.
keep making these scientific terms and scientific things and this and that, but it's you're
You gotta
not
understand the
dealing with a
person.
lot. Exactly. You know, it says that these are manipulative people who are untrusting. So you have to figure out how to get into this person's mind and make them
That's what I
trust
was
you.
just gonna say.
But they don't do this.
Yeah,
You're
I
a
feel like
chart.
you have to
Especially in
tailor
a
it
hospital.
to the person.
Yeah.
Because every person is different. Yes, there are definitely telltale signs of, you know, each
What?
disorder.
Wait, what?
Completely butchered that.
Tell what? Tell what?
Definitely
Telltale.
telltale signs.
Okay.
There's definitely commonalities.
Yes.
But at the same time, every person is different.
Right.
So like aftercare should be like customized or individualized to that person. So in his situation, he doesn't trust therapists. So we need to find a different aftercare situation for him that will help him to get through, but won't seem like he's seeing a therapist. You know what I mean? Like we need to think outside of the box with this mental health.
Aside from that, also, I feel like there needs to be more people that look like you in this field to make you feel more comfortable.
Preach.
Not for nothing. I don't want to sound
Racist.
inappropriate or racist, but it's very whitewashed.
Yeah.
And he's a black man.
Yes.
He needs a black man or a black woman
Yes.
that's going to help him.
And you're not.
And that wasn't there. I hadn't seen not one option of that. It was all white women,
Exactly.
honestly. So why would he trust you?
And you're not. And you're not sounding racist because there's actual studies, and it's actually known in the field that a lot of minorities do not seek mental health treatment because there's lack of representation in the therapist. You know, so it's a problem. And if you look at, like, right now, I'm studying marriage and family therapy. So I get frustrated all the time because when I look in the textbooks, when I look at all the founding fathers and people who like came up with all the therapeutic styles and
half of the bogus
they're
shit that they're
all white. Not one of them is any other race, ethnicity. So to me, it's like, okay, so you're telling me that there were no Asian people who had thoughts about mental health? There were no black people. There were no Spanish people. There were no no other race?
Oh, God, you know what I was just thinking?
I don't believe that.
With that, you could argue so many different points. You could also say that culturally, our cultures were way different and not as accepting as someone going to do that. Whereas primarily
absolutely, that's true.
Caucasian cultures were like, talk about it, let's fix it.
Very true.
Let's let it talk to somebody else about it.
That's also very true.
You know, even like, especially you touched on Asian cultures, they're very, very
very tight-lipped about things like that because it's looked at it's shame. It brings shame on the family.
You know what bothers me too, though, with the whole therapy thing is that and these theories, there's no spirituality in it. But we're spiritual people.
Exactly.
So not everything is a clear-cut textbook anything.
But
I feel like we're also dealing with...
But you got to be careful with that because what about the people that don't believe?
Well, see, that's the thing that I'm learning in my program. That's one of the things that I do like is that they encourage us as therapists to be mindful of the person's spirituality. So if this person that you're treating is very spiritual, they encourage us to like foster that, to talk through that with them. We're not going to ignore the fact that they are very spiritual. Yeah. And that's a value, you know, in their life. So that's one thing that I do like. And also for yourself, like if you are a spiritual person and you are a therapist, they do encourage you to tap into that. But you can't, you know, obviously attribute your spirituality to somebody else's. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to cut off how you feel about, I am a little bit.
That's good, huh?
She drank the whole thing, so I know.
What's up with that?
She's feeling and I'm over. I know.
I'm feeling a little wavy right now, but oh my God.
Wave it on.
Talking about mental health and feeling wavy is crazy, but.
No, it's all
no
good.
Pun intended.
So. It's all good.
No, but you're right. I agree
you know
with
what
that.
I feel bad about too is like I'm saying all this because I want people with, you know, mental disorders to get the help that they need. Yeah. But me and her talked about me like looking into this field, and
Yes.
I was like, I want nothing to do with mental disorder.
Well, 'cause you're traumatized
And
about it.
I'm
It's
wondering
understandable.
if a lot of people are like that. That is such a, to me, that is such an extra difficult field to pick up.
Yeah, but you don't know, like,
Do you
it's
know
so
the energy
vast.
of the psych ward?
Mhm.
Yeah, you know,
Yes, I
right?
do.
You were,
I feel like I'm not traumatized by it, but when I go back into that place and envision it, I'm horrified.
Yeah.
that's something that I'm actually scared about.
And there's
I'm not
so
gonna
much,
lie.
there's so many different spiritual energies when you get in there, and you
But-
can you can see the child like
Yeah.
of these.
The worst thing
these
is like
people.
you see, like you're seeing it from the outside. As a clinician, whoa, it's a whole different story.
What are you seeing?
Because you get to see.
Like the tantrums and things like that.
Yeah, but the thing is, like some of the people that you encounter, it's like, oh my god.
You
I would
worked in a
never-
psych ward,
yeah,
right?
that's what I'm telling you. It's like
As a nurse.
it's crazy.
Give
No,
an
I mean, not to
example.
say it like that.
I
But,
want an example.
Remember the guy you told me about who thought he was Jesus?
yeah, the guy that he painted himself silver, and then he went and stabbed his sister and his brother. And he painted himself silver because he didn't think that they could see him that way, and that
Wow.
they couldn't trace him.
Wow.
And somehow his sister survived.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But if you talk to him, I sat down and talked to him. Very intelligent man.
They
If-
are intelligent though.
Then the thing is, it's like when he's off that mood or whatever you want to call it, very well spoken. You see him somewhere, you're like, wow, this guy's.
You don't
pretty
see
cool.
it until they
No,
have
no.
a mental breakdown.
No, you
Until
don't.
they're
You
manic, you
don't.
do not see
You
it.
don't.
And the interesting thing is so I feel like a lot of them are narcissists. And so because I've heard this Jesus thing before.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for them, it's interesting that a lot of them go into this religious space.
Yeah.
But I feel like Jesus to them is like the highest to go. And so they are that. They
Yes.
are the highest.
Yes.
But
That's
that's
the
that narcissism.
grandiosity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But it's interesting.
But
It's very
it's
interesting.
a lot. It's a lot.
It
to
is a
see.
lot. I think I went into the psych ward like probably like 5 or 6 times. Maybe like 6 times. I was in that space in
Then
different hospitals,
you
and
went
it
to a
was
unit that was pretty, for a quote unquote civilian. That means you went to a ward that wasn't as bad.
well. I went to apparently. I went to the worst ward in one of the hospitals, and then he got put into a lower one, and then I went to the lower one, which was a lot better than the highest one. To me, was the scariest one.
Well,
Yeah.
It was the scariest one. But I've seen different levels to it because, you know.
And the thing is, in those wards, they, like when they do.
I didn't like being
therapy
locked in the
time or
room
something
either.
like that. They put them all together sometimes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting. They have
Yeah.
music time. They have it's
Crafts,
crazy.
music, TV
Yeah.
time. Yeah, but when they get to that phone time and someone needs to use the phone, yeah,
I've heard it.
yeah.
I've heard the arguing and the fighting and
And then you have some people that have a different mania, and they don't want somebody picking up the phone because then they're gonna get found out. But the other guy wants to use the phone because he needs to talk to somebody. So it's all kinds of stuff going on.
yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And just stay with your back to the wall.
Shout out to
Basically.
all
You
of the mental health professionals who
It's
work
really
in those wards, because
Mhm.
that
It's
is
tough.
that
It's
is
tough.
tough
You know
work.
what I used to feel so bad about, but I don't know how they would fix this. There's times that they come out of this mania, and so now you're more level-headed, but this is the space and the energy you're with because you're locked up until you're out.
Very
Yeah.
true. Very
So even if you might be coming out of it, this is still your surrounding that you're locked in for however much more time after the case. So it's like,
true. Right.
how do you level that and how do you change? Because yes, there's different floors to some places, but your low is still, it's still fucking challenging
So bad,
for someone to start getting in their right mind and to still be locked in this space. Like I just don't. It's so hard.
That reminds me of one of our listeners called us to talk about a situation her daughter went through. Her name is Lisa, and her daughter actually attempted suicide. And she had to bring her daughter to the hospital, and they treated her for her, medical emergency. And then after that, it was a situation like what you mentioned with your ex, how they just put her in a room. She was with her mother, and they just had to sit there with no cell phone and just sit there with no like therapist to come in. And it's like there was a lack of aftercare. Because
it depends on the time that you're going in, because there might not be any doctors, and you're gonna wait for a doctor.
Right.
And you're locked in.
Yep.
You can't just walk out. That's the shit about psych wards. You cannot walk out. Yeah. Even in a psych waiting room, you cannot walk out.
Like anyone,
unless
even
someone
if you're not
signs
experiencing a psychological emergency, anyone who's locked into a situation like that and you can't leave is going to feel a certain way. So if you were just coming in for being suicidal, attempting to kill yourself, and then you're just locked into this room without anything, nothing.
No, they definitely know how to make a situation worse.
That's terrible.
Well, then you got to look at
definitely
it
do.
Playing the other side of the coin. There's a lot of factors in that too. One being that, like you just alluded to before, there's not enough staff.
Yeah.
The doctors come in when he comes in.
That's what Lisa
number one.
said.
Yeah.
There's not enough staff. Two, when you don't have enough staff, you have all the other things. Remember, in hospitals and all that, they classify things in levels. So someone that's bleeding out is most likely going to get a faster attention than someone who's screaming at somebody else.
Right.
Not to make it small or anything, but it's just the way it works.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
You're absolutely right, because our listener Lisa, she sent me an article, and in the article it tells the story about her daughter, and it was saying that there was only one psychologist on staff in the hospital, and one, I think, counselor. So forgive me if I'm misquoting it, but
that happens a lot.
How is that? There's like so many people I know that are in school right now to become therapists.
They're probably on the day shift.
Plenty of therapists that are out there. So how is it that there's only two that are equipped to help?
That's very common in a lot of hospitals, unless you go into one that's like specializing in it. In a hospital that has a ward, 9 times out of 10, there's not a lot of staff.
To me, because we are all
because they'll just put you in a ward and you'll wait to see some type of doctor at some point.
Every hospital should be equipped with a mental health.
They can do, and if they let you back out, they don't know what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
So they'll lock you up, until they can have someone come in.
There needs to be better outpatient programs. There needs to be a ward in every hospital, because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense.
All kinds of financial mess.
It always comes down to money.
That's right.
It always
ideally, maybe something like something like where they start off somewhere big, like you guys were saying, and then as they get quote unquote better or less affected, they get to a point where they could go to an individual type of situation. Like maybe they get confined to their room or something in a different building or whatever. But this way, they're not in like, general population, so to speak, with everyone else. So that, like you were saying before, that can't be 100% healthy for someone who's going through something and is trying to get better, but then there's 15 people screaming around them all day long. Not to say that it's like that every day, because it wasn't. I worked in the building and it wasn't always like that, but there were moments when it actually was like that.
Man, there's so much to be done. So much to be done. This is a crazy topic. I mean, I shouldn't say crazy, but this was a lot. Yeah. Oh, man.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
That was deep, yeah.
But
I feel bad. Cortnie was crying, and I'm doing this awkward, like, stare smile. Like, I'm not going to cry.
Deer in the headlights look.
I'm not going to cry.
No.
It's
I'm not
okay.
Gonna do it. I almost did.
It's okay. I still have the tears welling up.
But it's I've worked through it, so, I mean.
Everybody does
I've talked about this so.
Yeah.
I've dealt with it so much already that it's just like.
You did the work.
It's not really.
You did the work.
But anyway.
And there's nothing wrong with being emotional if you were to get emotional.
No. I know. There was one moment, but it's good. It's good. We're good.
Ya pasó.
We're all
It's
good. I'm actually happy that I didn't like boohoo crying the whole time.
You did
you
so
were getting
good.
close. You were getting close though.
Thanks to you, because I lost my mind for half the week and you helped me
That's
through
why I
it.
told Cortnie.
And Babe helped me through it.
I said you
as
have,
you always do.
What I said you have a couple days before this podcast.
Get it out.
And
Get it out.
so for the next like 3 days, you're going to cry this out in spurts of
told
about
me.
10 minutes
She told me
every
exactly
couple of
that.
hours.
The iced tea probably helped a little bit there
And
too.
then you'll be
I
okay
like how
by
you
Friday.
did that. I like how you did that. You're like, so that you can get your points across and you won't be crying the whole time through us. Thank
That's
you.
therapist speak right there, yo.
See, I'm telling you, this girl needs to
It
be
was
my
funny, too, 'cause we were
co-therapist, my
both
partner.
We were both sitting on chairs, and I was like, okay.
Oh, did you
Here's
do the
what-
how does that make you feel? Like she does?
I didn't.
She was
Ah.
no, I'm telling you, babe. Everything that I learned when I went to residency, she did
it,
that,
yeah. She
and
did
she
the
wasn't
face you?
taught.
She did the face you and
No,
eye
let
contact?
me tell you. We went downstairs in our
What?
lobby. We went downstairs in our lobby, and there's two
Ooh,
chairs
neutral
opposing each
place. I
other with
like
a nice
that.
carpet and everything. So I literally felt like I was in a therapy session
Really
with
funny. I
her,
felt like I was too.
and she was totally engaged.
put
She
your
had her
coat on?
legs
Did you
crossed
put
and
your coat on?
everything.
I was just like this in business clothes, like.
She validated me just like
Oh.
this. She validated me. She was encouraging me. She gave me
Alright.
stuff to like work on after the
I
session.
told Cortnie because I said, she said the guilty part, and I completely understand because my uncle had Lou Gehrig's disease, and so I watched him deteriorate, and I'll never forget that they had a party for him, and I didn't go, and I know my mother was so annoyed with me. But I couldn't face seeing him sick with all these people around him.
Right.
I just couldn't. I don't know what it was about that specific situation that I just didn't want to be a part of.
Yeah.
But I did things with him. I would go and feed him.
Yeah.
I knew he loved these stuffed shells from the diner that wasn't far. So I would walk and get the stuffed shells and then walk it back. And then I
Aw.
would feed it to him. And, I would just do those things. But I couldn't
You're a great
do
niece.
that. I couldn't do that. And I felt so much guilt after he passed, and I felt like such a piece of shit. And then I said, you know what? I did what I could do.
That's right.
Yeah.
That just was something that I didn't feel prepared for.
Exactly.
But I told Cortnie that I feel like it later built me up to handle my grandmother. Because she eventually got sick, and I was the one who actually had to go in and deal with it because my mother was still at work. And that was so much, but I had more strength because I had dealt with that. And so that was like the stepping stone for you. Yeah, you'll have guilt, but, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Let's move forward. You did what you could at the time, but the next time that something, God forbid, hard like that happens, or a situation, that's super difficult, you'll have some more strength.
Yeah, I'm stronger because of it.
Yeah.
I definitely have become stronger because of that
So.
situation. So thanks again, Boo, for being there for me
Aw.
and
You're
encouraging me and being my therapist. And thanks to you, babe, because you've been my therapist
Yeah.
for years now. And you helped me to realize what was going on with me this past week and the week before. And
You're
the week before
easy.
that.
He was in the psych ward.
Yeah.
You light work.
You a light work.
Light
Exactly.
Light work.
Like, this ain't nothing, yo. This is like the receptionist out
Encouraging
front.
words and pat her on the ass. You're
Yeah,
good.
basically.
Keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
Yes, I need that daily. If you pass by me without patting me on my butt, then there's something
you see,
wrong.
it works. That's my
Something
therapy.
wrong.
right
Aw, I'm
there.
just looking for someone to pat
Right
me on the
there.
ass. Lovingly.
girl.
Yeah.
He's coming, girl.
Lovingly.
He's coming. He's coming, girl.
Oh, shit.
Oh, man. Well, to wrap it up before we get to the affirmation, I just want to encourage anybody who's listening to this, if you resonated with anything that we talked about, if you're struggling with anything in your life and you feel like it's affecting you to the point where you really can't function and you need some help, I really encourage you to reach out. Like I said before, if you're not ready to really sit down and talk to somebody face to face, there are options out there for you, like RAINN.org, RAINN.org. You can go on there and do the anonymous chat. If you're having thoughts of suicide, you can, I don't have the suicide numbers up, But if you are struggling with thoughts of suicide, please reach out. You can call. You also can go on to RAINN for that, or you can call the suicide hotline, which is 1-800-273-8255. Or if you're like me and you just want to text, you can text TALK to 741-741. Again, that's TALK. Text TALK to 741-741. And that's available 24 hours a day. So if you're having
texting.
Yeah.
That would be like such a long text.
But it's
How do you
better
get
than
all those thoughts out
It's
on
better
a
than the
text?
phone number, though. Just to remember that
Yes.
damn phone number.
But you know what? We're in the age where everybody's like doing text messaging and social media
yeah.
and
I
everything.
guess.
So texting might
old
be your
school.
preferred. You
I
know,
need
these,
at least
these
a
kids
phone
nowadays are
to
texting
call.
real fast.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do
So
it.
You know, they got
whatever
that
works for you.
texter's thumb now, or whatever they call it.
That's like an
Yeah.
actual thing.
Did you know that? Yeah.
No, the lady
It is.
I do yoga with though has text neck yoga. She has
Are you
See?
serious?
wrist text wrist
Yeah,
fingers.
yeah.
She has yoga for all of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's a thing.
That's
It's a
because
thing.
people are on it all day long.
It's a thing.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I'm surprised I don't have
Yeah,
text.
that's why your
Maybe
neck
that's
be
why my
hurting.
neck be.
Yep.
My
That's
muscles
exactly
be
what it
tensing
is.
up. Maybe it's not anxiety.
living
Maybe
on
it's
that
just
phone.
Text neck.
text neck.
Text neck.
It's Instagram neck. You better log on to
IGN.
her YouTube and get your text neck stretch on.
Oh man, I'm glad we can end that on a light note
For real.
because it's affirmation time. Yes, babe.
Hey.
Yes.
It's really short and sweet.
Collaboration.
The affirmation for the week is my disability allows me the freedom to be different.
Yes. Yes. My disability allows me the freedom to be different. All right, people. Thank you for sticking it out with us. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments, please DM us. Send us an email, DM, whatever. Call us.
Yeah, call.
Thank you again to Lisa who called us, left us a message, and sent me that lovely article that we were able to read and reference in this episode. We greatly, greatly appreciate your support and listenership every week.
That was a
I
big
like
one
that.
There, huh?
It was rocky, but
Yeah.
she did it.
She stretched that one out,
I
right?
struggle with that. This iced tea is
You
getting
saw
to
that,
me.
right?
No, and we're about to go out after this.
We're so not good to her though. We didn't need to shout her out like that.
Nah, you know, we can't
It's
let
your
that ride. Come on,
influence
we can't
that
let that
brings me
ride.
to that
Yeah.
You
point.
can't let that ride, yo.
Y'all be ganging up on me. Y'all be ganging up on me. I don't have anybody to side with me except for when Anthony is here.
Nah, not even Ant does it. He'll give you one and then that's it.
That's enough. I need at least just one. Like, come on now.
Sorry, girl.
That's it.
But speaking of which, shout out to Kenya, our co-worker and our friend Kenya.
Yes, her birthday's Sunday.
It's Sunday, yes.
Yeah.
So we are going out after this to celebrate Kenya's birthday. Happy birthday, girl. We'll see you later.
Little cutie.
Yeah, she's the cutest and the most fashionista person in our office. So, yeah. All right, let me end this. I'm sounding
This
crazy
can go
right
forever.
now.
Ramble.
We're like an hour and a half right now.
That was the longest let go as I've ever seen.
I feel like it's
I
been
just
longer
love doing
before,
this.
but anyway.
I love this. I love this so much. Thank you, guys. Anyway, all right. So you guys have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
If you are struggling with your mental health and need some support, go to www.psychologytoday.com to locate a therapist, psychologist, or support group in your area. If you or someone you love is a victim of rape, sexual abuse, or assault, go to RAINN, RAINN.org for resources and additional information that can help you heal. Click live chat to talk with someone anonymously online. If you are having suicidal thoughts and in need of help, call the suicide hotline at 1-800-273-8255 or text TALK to 741-741 24 hours a day. And remember, there's hope. If you are enjoying the Common Woman podcast and would like to support, please like, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you would like to contact the Common Woman podcast, you can email us at thecommonwomanpodcast@gmail.com, or reach out to us on social media on Instagram @The Common Woman Podcast and on Twitter @Common Woman Pod. Thank you for your support.